news networks are not even getting clicks like that. So this shows like there's an opportunity for this, what we're doing here on this show.
For people to do, you know what I'm saying? Like nobody's really made that a problem that, because I mean, shoot, they could have changed that a long time ago too. Like that whole, they could send them through an election process as well, since this is supposed to be what people say a democracy. But that's hey.
Let me play some of the video, and I'm gonna just play bits, and we'll talk about it. I want to hear Deuce and Amina.
In New York, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Juan Gonzalez in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
The Supreme Court has voted to overturn abortion rights. This according to a leaked Supreme Court draft opinion published Monday night by Politico. The document is an internally circulated majority draft opinion that was written by Justice Samuel Alito that would strike down Roe v. Wade, the landmark decision that's guaranteed federal constitutional protections of abortion rights for half a century. In the draft, Alito also moves to overturn Planned Parenthood versus Casey, a 1992 decision credited with upholding Roe v. Wade. Alito writes, quote, "Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. It's time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives," unquote. The leaked opinion suggests 5 conservative justices would vote to overturn Roe. Justice Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett joining Alito. CNN reports Chief Justice John Roberts does not want to completely overturn Roe v. Wade, but he would vote to uphold the Mississippi law that bans abortion at 15 weeks of pregnancy. If Roe is overturned, 13 states have so-called trigger laws that would make abortion illegal as soon as the court rules. They're among the more than 26 states the Guttmacher Institute says are likely to ban abortion as soon as possible. Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Montana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. For more, we're joined.
Wait, look at that map.
Louisiana's, because I see Louisiana as so democratic to where I'm surprised that they're even there, but I guess in the laws, they're still very much republic, but then, they got people who are, honestly, I think it's just a bunch of people that still just vote against themselves.
Well, Louisiana is still really conservative. And you see, that's a whole block right here where you see where the slave states, these are all the slave states.
Conservative states. I mean, those I think that's, because you could say, yes, I guess you could say slave states if you want to, even though there were slaves in each one of them. I mean, I don't get that.
It's just a term that we use because it was the larger amount of slaves. There were slaves all through the states, really, but you had plantations, huge amounts of slaves. This is what the slave quarter.
Yeah, the plantations were greater because that's where the growing sources were more prevalent. But
yeah, so that's kind of like beside the point.
Let me ask this, because you're into socialism and things like that, and I really get everybody's opinion on, do you think this is a good opportunity to have the government step up in other ways to be able to support children?
Absolutely, because what I be saying about the pro-life people is that they care about the baby all the way up until they're born. If you really are pro-life, then you should care about them their whole life. A child, a young adult, they're still a human life. But you don't care about them no more. You're okay with them starving to death.
Yeah, so that means that they need to allocate more funds to helping the, because I
Absolutely,
mean, whether
absolutely.
it's the children, the families,
They've
like,
been
because you can't look out for the children without looking out for the parents.
exactly.
You
You know,
know,
they've been doing this in I want to say China. I don't know where it is. An Asian country. They have low birth rates, and so they want to incentivize the parents
Mhm.
to have more kids. So they are doing things that makes it, you know, they focus on, like, it's a lot of stuff, a whole bunch of all it affects a lot of industries, because all of these industries that prey on parents, you know what I'm saying? Those are the industries they attack and force them to not, charge them so much or whatever. So to incentivize the parents to actually have kids, because they don't have to worry about this huge burden of the of cost.
and is it more than two? Because I think that's what it was at before. Where they, because I think their populations were getting so big. Because I think the biggest thing in especially China is that there's more. The population is more men than it is women, where it's opposite here. There's more women than there are men, and of course, like we do only, like, we have like 17% of our men is impregnating the 100% of the women. So
Yeah, but the point is what you was asking about socialism and
yeah,
subsidizing parents. And the reason why I brought up that Asian country, I can't think of which one it is because they're exactly doing that. And they are also seeing success as a result of it. And so look, y'all look at this map, bruh. These are all the states that the moment they overturn Roe versus Wade, they have trigger laws that will make abortion illegal in that state. So the ones with the cream color are states where you would apparently still be legal to have abortion. But if you're in Arkansas, how far you got to go to get to a state uh, where you
not
can do
far.
it legally?
Because I mean, you go right into Illinois and you're good.
Yeah.
Now, if you're talking about
What if you're in Florida?
West
But you
Louisiana,
also have to think about some of these states right now have bounty laws where they can put a bounty on your head for going to seek services outside of state when it's illegal in their state.
And
So
Texas has
that's
that
something
law.
we have to be mindful
yeah, but
about.
I mean, yeah, I know, but it's almost like ridiculous that that this thing is happening. If potentially you're not gonna run around and start telling everybody, "Oh, girl, yeah, I'm pregnant." Oh, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you'd be kind of insane to really do that, where you can just have a weekend vacation, you know what I'm saying, to wherever you want to go and do what you're gonna do and come on back, whether it's all the way to the tip of Maine, where you know what I'm saying, you got to go way
Well,
out there.
well, it's not just a person, just a person in their regular life talking to a friend or anything like that. They're also saying that the providers who offer these services in other states could be criminally prosecuted. So even though you could, keep it under wraps, and still, if they find out that another physician, they find out that a physician is working on you that's doing a service for you that's illegal and you live in a certain state where that's not allowed, they can be criminally prosecuted. And so
Okay,
we get into the territory of like HIPAA and again, right to privacy. It's not just this issue, it's way bigger.
And
so
they're
are they looking at making a new criminal class?
well, they definitely make it more cops because they deputizing citizens with these laws because and they pay them. They pay them for their lawyer fees or whatever court
Yeah.
costs. And
Yeah.
they also give them like a bounty or some shit they can get. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's 10,000 per person that they
And,
report.
and then they can sue, and then they can win the suits. So then the government is covering their court costs. Anyways,
My thing
I'm
is, I
losing my
wonder,
breath.
would they really
What's
go
up,
that
Doc?
I wonder, really, like, would they go that far with every race? Like, I mean, do they care enough about black people
And
from
that's
having
another thing
abortion?
about this whole thing, because you know that we have a layered system. So some people ain't gonna have a problem getting an abortion. There's certain segments of the society, it don't matter about these colors on this map. The map don't mean nothing. But there's other segments of our society, these colors gonna really, really fucking matter.
Yeah, for white women, it's gonna be harder for white women to get abortions than it is for a black woman.
Why you say that?
Because they don't care if black women having kids. They care about their own, like they care about white women giving up their child in a case where their birth rates are low. Like there's really nothing wrong with our birth rates other than the fact that we don't go full term, like they have an abortion.
I don't know if
Like
that's true, but this
No,
is a
no, seriously, the reason that affirmative, or what was it? Not affirmative action, but the one that they just the birth control clinic advice that they all went to. The main reason those are all easily available in black communities, because the idea of making an abortion legal originally was to help keep the black community calm. I mean, flat out, because they made it more easily available to the black communities by putting centers in there and helping out and finding ways to help pay for it, while all the white kids and stuff like that are literally forced to have theirs, or forced into marriage and things. I mean, that goes back they you can trace that back to like the early 70s.
well,
you could
well,
go
I,
back further than that, because you got the eugenics program,
well, yeah,
Gloria Steinem or whatever the hell her name was,
yeah.
and then the Nazis was copying that shit. So yeah, the birth of Planned Parenthood was definitely racial, and it was all about brown and black babies getting aborted. But that's not what we're talking about here. You know what I'm saying? Yes, that was the root and plan, but this thing is so complex and nuanced. You know what I'm saying? That it's not as simple and cut and dry as that, because time has gone on. And I remember when I was a teenager, that's where we went to they give you big bags of condoms and all that kind of stuff, sex education and stuff like that. And I didn't get that from nowhere else other than that. And we had all of those communities. We had plenty of those all over the community. And they
Well,
started getting less and less of them. I don't think we even have one. We may have one left.
I can go deep because I mean, I do have some conspiracy theories in line. I've been trying to I'm keeping back from that, but there's many other reasons why they may not want, these kids to die off. Different purposes they can use them for. So I mean, I don't know. I see, and of course it becomes more and more sinister the more we go.
It is, because economics is what we're talking about, right? Because look, we're saying the pro-life people are like, they care about the babies until they're born. And, but then why is that? That doesn't make any sense. Well, they want to prey on them, just like I said about the immigrants and women. You know what I'm saying? Preying on the children too. You know what I'm saying? In all different kinds of ways, because eventually they're going to be an adult too. Like you could just on a simple point, you can look at it as taxes, right? One simple layer, but then you got layer of
They don't care
job.
about taxes from people.
Well, then
They
you got
don't even need. They don't even need our taxes to run the country. They really don't. They split our money up amongst themselves. You know
yeah, I
what I'm saying?
know. I cannot argue with you. So then you got the other layer of, to their buddies, their private contractor buddies. Then you got the other layer of the jobs. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And then you got layers. It's layers on layers on layers, because you got organs. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and
And
see, but that's where I'm saying, as far as it getting more sinister, because of course, organs being available, the drug what they call adrenaquine, I mean adrenochrome. Like, there's a lot of different things that could, you know, these things they can use it for, but as long as the kid comes here alive and they can manipulate that part of the system of that, that part of the process, they'll, they can win. They can use, what I'm saying. there's something deeper than any of us, like civil, regular minded people will ever understand.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
feel you.
mean,
I feel you on that because the normal person is not so worried about what they, like we were saying in the other video, what the hell people are doing in their damn bedroom. Like, I could give two shits what you're doing in your bed. Like, whatever you're doing
yeah,
is that's showing you. But you got people out here who's very concerned about what people are doing in their bedroom, and that's mind blowing to
yeah.
me.
I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I probably would become one of those judgmental people. Like, I judge this dude big time. He's like, and he act. I'm not even gonna say it on the show. That's a conversation we'll have.
Okay,
But
let me play some of
yeah,
these.
By two guests. Michelle Goodwin is a chancellor's professor at University of California, Irvine, founding director of the Center for Biotechnology and Global Health Policy, author of Policing the Womb, Invisible Women and the Criminalization of Motherhood. Also with us from Portland, Oregon, is Catherine Kitty Colbert, longtime public interest attorney who argued the landmark case of Planned Parenthood versus Casey before the U.S. Supreme Court in 1992, which is credited with upholding Roe v. Wade. She's co-founder of the Center for Reproductive Rights and co-author of Controlling Women: What We Must Do Now to Save Reproductive Freedom. Well, we're going to go there in a second, Kitty Colbert. We're going to begin with you and just get your response to this astounding at every level, unprecedented release of a first draft of a decision, in this case, one that apparently was written in February and circulated to the court that would overturn Roe v. Wade, written by Samuel Alito. Can you respond to what you've read?
Well, it's a stunning opinion. And let me just say, I fully expected that this court would overrule Roe and Casey. That is not in contention. There has always been, since the confirmation of the Trump justices, the very strong likelihood that this would happen.
She's annoying. I'm sorry.
Turn around the politics in the bad states so that this no longer happens.
I'd like to bring into the conversation as well Michelle Goodwin, Chancellor's Professor at the University of California, Irvine. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Professor Goodwin. Your response to this leaked decision of the Supreme Court?
First of all, thank you so much for having me back on the show. This is unprecedented that there would be a leaked document coming from the United States Supreme Court. But let's be clear that these are incredibly unprecedented times that we find ourselves in the United States, with an insurrection to overturn the results of an election last year, and now with the Supreme Court seeking to potentially gut Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. This is a first draft of an unpublished opinion, so we don't actually know what will happen, but very likely, given this draft, we will see the undoing of Roe v. Wade. And it's important that we understand that with the undoing of Roe v. Wade, just what's at stake in the United States for our democracy and the rule of law. And if we look at this within the context of our democracy and the rule of law, you see the potential for the Supreme Court to do a bit of cherry picking around equality issues, around privacy issues, about matters that relate to autonomy with people's bodies. You also see the Supreme Court seeking to skirt empirical data that has emerged in years since Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. What is crystallized is that the World Health Organization has said that an abortion is as safe as a penicillin shot. An abortion, surgical abortion, one of the safest medical procedures that a person could have. But even more than that, when we look at rates of maternal morbidity and mortality in the United States, then this opinion is absolutely shocking as and horrific as we see the state level anti-abortion laws. A woman is 14 times more likely to die in the United States by carrying a pregnancy to term than by terminating it. And so if we fail to include that in our conversation, then we're missing what essentially is a death sentence for many women across the United States and girls. And let me add one layer.
Okay, Pat, I know you want to say something.
well, no, I think
Would you? Because you heard
allow other people to speak.
Yeah. Anybody want to make comment? But yeah, the part where she was saying, the women taking the, having the pregnancy and taking it to term is also a risk. You know what I'm saying? And that part is the part that's like, what about the mom? Like we talk about, pro life. You know what I'm saying? So, but what about the mom though?
What's the percentage? My thing is, what's the percentage of cases that this is actually happening for her to even make this an argument?
She said something. Hold on, let's play it back.
Anti-abortion laws. A woman is 14 times more likely to die in the United States by carrying a pregnancy to term than by terminating it. And so,
She said 14 more times more likely to
so manipulative.
That sounds like some really manipulated statement right there.
I mean, look.
There's no numbers. 14 times more likely to die in childbirth. Well, what are your stats you're basing it on? And is that normal
exactly.
Or is that with a problem? Because at no time have any of these laws taken abortion off the table for anyone that has been raped, anyone that is a victim of incest, or anyone whose life is threatened by the pregnancy. All of the states have those abortions. Those are all off the table. And have pretty much, well, I don't know if they're going to stay off the table, but right now that's off the table in all of the states.
And look, I'm gonna tell you, the doctors are not stupid at all. They got machines that tell them, like, if it's really a concern, they see it at wild. Like, if it's something that the they can tell you, okay, if you have this, if you continue, because of the way the certain organs are lined up, or interference that's going to happen through the natural pregnancy, whether they need to go to having a C-section, or if they need to totally abort it right then, like any other way you have this kid, this is just it's gonna kill you. It's gonna be either you or the child, and they get to decide, and the mother or the father get to decide what's gonna be what. Of course, in most cases, they're gonna choose one of them, because they can have this whole situation again. They can have a child again. But however, it's not like it's just just all by chance that people are just dying, or and then the 14 times, this is ridiculous. Like, why is it, why, like, not having some specific reason, or some kind of something specific that happens why it becomes 14 times more likely, then I call bullshit.
14 times more likely what? Having the child than having the abortion?
To die in child, to die, that the woman's going to die in childbirth.
Well, like I say, what are the numbers from? 14 times more likely to die from childbirth than
based
from having
on
an abortion.
What? That's what I'm saying. Because it has to be based on something.
Then where is her statement? If that's true, though, then where is her statement mean that, the abortion is almost safe as a regular procedure, which I know it's not.
Me and you standing in the same
spot. It can
spot.
Start blood loss. It can create a problem with them ever having children again. It can scrape the facilities, whatever they are, the flange things, off the wall of the uterus, so they can't hold an egg again. I mean, so
Look, I'm gonna say this, and y'all can jump on me or whatever. I think that this whole, like, women are scared to lose this, because this gives them a freaking, a player card. This is a player card for a lot of women. Not every, but for some women, this is a player card. Like, at any moment, like, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I like you. I want to be like you. Look, it's.
I want to lighten it up a bit, but I'm gonna bring it back though. So,
We
but
all need to keep some hot sauce in the cupboard.
Yeah, I'm not scared. I'm look.
I don't eat
I'm gonna
hot sauce.
just. Look. Bring some habanero in here.
I don't do it. Let me ask you, Mina. So look, I have a thing that like more and more I'm feeling like I don't like pets. I feel like they're not ethical because the way we treat them, like, you know what I'm saying? Like we own them, you know what I'm saying? But it's a sentient being that's alive. And one of the things about, like, you know how like you neuter your pet, right? So a lot of
I don't
times
like that either.
yeah, so here I go. A lot of times you neuter the pet for your own benefit because it bothers you there some behavior that they're having, right? So, but
Natural.
one thing about the neutering of the pet is like I feel like at least let them have 1 or 2 litters before you do it, so they can at least have lived a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And had a chance to, you know, do their you know, pass their DNA. What do you think about that? Because you are, you know, you breed dogs, so it should be interesting. What do you think about that?
So it varies from male to female. So with males, um, I don't see, as a dog behaviorist and dog trainer, I don't see the reason for neutering a male. I've never seen any behavior issues out of even my boys. You know, it's kind of weird. It more speaks on, or how were they well socialized? How were they handled? Like, so I see more problems with dogs that were neutered early rather than dogs that were neutered after they reached full development and growth and maturity. But as far as females, it's a different story just because the uterus acts in a different way. And so the best thing for a dog's uterus when they have it in there, when it's active, is for it to have babies. So in the, you know, when they're not domesticated, when they're wild and they're strays, they keep their uterus full. That's why you see it. Intact females will almost always be pregnant or keep being pregnant. When you have that uterus empty, or when you skip heats, when you do anything like that, you risk the female's uterus. You risk getting pyometra, you risk complications, you risk her getting sick, and it can be a really bad thing. So for me, I never, any of my adopters, I never tell them to spay or neuter early. I tell them, hey, wait until the dog reaches full maturity and they've gotten all the hormones throughout their body, and they're them. They're able to be them. Then you can make that decision. But for people who really know dogs, it's, from a male perspective, it is not necessary. It's not necessarily to neuter, or, you know, neuter a dog at all. But for a female, if you're worried about, okay, that she could get pyometra, she has an active uterus, it's not carrying babies, and that's what they've biologically been bred to do, keep the uterus active and keep the babies going, then that might be a different decision. So, I mean, and this is really interesting. It comes
Both
back
sides,
to
really.
how men's opinions on women's bodies and not having the internal structure for it and not knowing the specific things that go along with that.
You knew you knew the point of the reason. Like, anyways, you read my mind because I was gonna bring it back to that, you know, because that's the whole idea. You know what I'm saying? And it's like treating women as pets. You know what I'm saying? And then you like you give your pet more rights than you give a woman.
Panderer.
Let me read Doc's comment. He says
Panderer.
Wait, let me read this comment. Doc says it's the declawing cats that I really think is monstrous. Man, that's some horrible ass shit to do to a fucking cat, bro. What the hell?
Bro, look, let me say this.
And then they splitting the nuts. Wait. She was saying no reason to freaking neuter a male dog. And it's like these dudes, you know, these people be slitting their dogs nuts right away. As soon as they get them. And I'm like, damn, you just took that dude's nuts away.
But see, I agree with her on that because I feel like, okay, look, you know, like it's more so like some pet owners shouldn't have the responsibility of having a pet because it's more so them. It's not really the pet itself because they're acting on nature as they, you know, they would or they should. But however, it's like, you know, a lot of pet owners don't have the same don't have the right responsibility, you know, rate or however you want to call it. Like they're just not as responsible. They want to have this cute little dog, but at the same time, you know, they don't have a safe place for the dog to be able to. They keep them locked up in a little cage. Even like, I mean, I don't know, but like I have a lot against that as well.
Yeah, I
So
hate
like,
that
but
And
shit.
another part of that is that there are people out here that shouldn't be having children,
And I
that
agree with
aren't
that.
mentally capable or financially capable of having children.
And that we
but
should
you know,
have a
but there's a
system
way.
in place to deal with that.
But you know what? Because my brother had the surgery when he was a teenager, that he couldn't have kids because he's you know, somewhat mentally challenged, and it would be irresponsible for us to have him out, you know, banging up the city and leaving babies everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's things that could be done other than, you know, an abortion 2 or 3 times a year. Uh,
Well. Let's
you
flip it.
know,
Well, let's flip it. How do you feel about them like making men so words they can't make babies instead of doing it the abortions? You know what I'm saying?
if the mental capacity is not to a certain standard, no, they shouldn't have kids either.
How do you gauge that? Because that's also discriminatory when you think about how they were
But
handling voting
I
and
know
registration.
it's a
Back,
catch 22. It's a catch 22. But I
right,
think that that's
right.
something within the family that people can, you know, decide, you know, just like what we did with my brother. Like my mom was like, hey, you know what I'm saying? You know your brother, he out here doing his thing, and you know he, you know, instead of having, you know, kids out here and people's coming back and saying, oh, he, you know, have, you know, this his baby and all this other kind of stuff, she nipped it in the bud and just like, okay, look, he's not responsible enough to have children, so he had the surgery, he had the I forget what you call it, but you know, when you snip the dude. So he, you know, I think that that's something that should be more of a family decision because the state doesn't have the right to make that decision, or at least shouldn't. And, you know, I mean, just like, you know, if things were, you know, people were more responsible because, you know, of course, abortion sometimes, you know, it's not necessary because the female might be, you know, really wanting to have the kid if she's got the support from the father, and the father's just kind of like, you know, I ain't really you know, I ain't feeling you like that, you know what I'm saying? And here we go, you know, here's another abortion to add to the
I just
stats.
think that if this thing was flipped over, I think that the majority of the states, United States, would not go for it. If it was men and it was about them making a baby, and the law came down and said that men couldn't make babies, you know what I'm saying? Or
And
they
they're gonna go around and start snipping all the dudes.
or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I think that
I
people would
mean,
have a fit. I don't think that
it's
people would go for
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, this just like what you see right now. It's gonna be some that's just like, hey, so where do I sign up? Where do I get when do I you know, can I go on the schedule my snipping? Because I mean,
Yeah. So what
after
if every time you get in trouble, what if you didn't pay child support? You when you went to jail, maybe you did some domestic abuse. Snip, snip, snip. No more nuts. It's a law.
hey, you know
Well,
that maybe
they don't cut your
look,
nuts out, but
I I figured Deuce
they
will
don't
say
cut your
something.
nuts out, bro.
It's like
Come on, dog.
Deuce,
You
like you
tripping
being
now, bro.
you being extra, bro. Like that hurts
You
every
being
time
dramatic.
you just said that like three
I
times
need
now.
I need the Yeah, I need. Hey, I didn't finally reach the age in my life where I got to be like an old ass man and make sure I grab my nuts before I sit down because I sit on them motherfuckers now. So, hey,
Oh
you need to
damn.
chill out on that. That.
No more nets.
Like,
Hey, you might need to get in line, bro.
But you know what's
nah, I don't
crazy
need to.
on a serious side?
I'm
Because
responsible.
let me read his comment and then I'm gonna make it what I say. Doc says the only choice a man ultimately he has about abortion is not ejaculate unprotected in first place. After that, it's just accepted the responsibility of woman's choice one way or another. I agree. But what if they was like,
Can I say this here though?
what if ejaculation is an abortion, bro? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it
I
is.
mean,
I mean,
that could be.
look, I'm gonna tell you, every time a male has, regardless if it's with someone or without, every time, like, that's a loss of life force. So, yeah, I would say whether it's in a condom, on in her
Yeah.
hair,
So what if the
you know,
law said every time you masturbated, you breaking the law because
that
you doing an abortion?
yeah, it really is. It's a loss of life force.
So you would be okay with that?
What are you saying?
I'm
Well,
saying
I
it
was
sounds like you want us to be Nazi Germany or Saudi
no,
Arabia
I didn't
or
no, I didn't say
Afghanistan under the
I'm
damn Taliban.
because so it sound. What did I say that makes it sound like that? All I said was I agree. Yes, it's a loss of life force. So do I agree with men getting snipped abortions? What did I say I line up with
Well,
Nazi
my
Germany?
point of saying that is just that it's slippery slope. Let me read Doc's comment. He says the only choice a man. Oh, I read that one. He says back to the 20s, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like we're going backwards. 1420s. God damn. Not the 1920s.
Yeah, because I was saying 1920s. Shoot, it was sexual freedom.
I want to play a bit more of this because y'all don't like this lady, so y'all can. I'm
15
gonna let her
times more
talk.
likely to die in the United States by carrying a pregnancy to term than by terminating it. And so if we fail to include that in our conversation, then we're missing what essentially is a death sentence for many women across the United States and girls. And let me add one layer to that. For Black women, they're 3.5 times more likely to die due to maternal mortality in the United States than their white counterparts. That is a national figure. That actually doesn't tell us all that we need to know when we actually look at states like Mississippi, Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, where Black women may be 5 times, 10 times, even 17 times more likely to die in certain cities and counties in those states than their white counterparts. And so this is not just a political performance or kind of partisanship way beyond ideology that we see coming from the Supreme Court. What we see is something that is very graphic in terms of what it will illustrate in terms of maternal morbidity and mortality. And let me add one last piece to that as well, is that this is not something that is conjecturing. This is actually coming from data from the CDC and from the state's departments of health and human services in those states. This is already what is taking shape given the anti-abortion measures that have taken place in the last 10 years in those states. It's glaring, it's alarming, and this draft opinion shows just how egregious it is.
Professor Goodwin, I want to ask you two
Kanye
questions.
West said,
One
"Bring the
is,
babies to
this
him."
is so unprecedented. I mean, in the court's history, has there ever been a release of a draft? And this is such a significant decision, but it has not come out. Is it conceivable, given what has happened, that one of these justices might change their mind? That's number one. And number two is, this is the judiciary. I'm looking at a tweet of Nina Turner, who is running for Congress in Ohio today. The election is taking place. She says, protecting abortion rights is not a midterm pitch. Democrats have the power now. We have the majority in Congress and we have the White House. Instead of drafting fundraising emails tonight, our elected leaders should be in D.C. voting to codify Roe and getting rid of the filibuster. So making Roe v. Wade the law of the land legislatively, if you could answer both.
How about?
Yeah, so let me start with the second part, which is.
Go ahead.
I said, how about just giving us our reparations and stop finding different bullshit to clog the courts up with?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think that would be, you know, because I honestly, I really feel like this is a bunch of distraction from bigger things that we could be discussing.
You think women's rights aren't a big issue? I'm asking.
What is our favorite saying? All rights is human rights. I mean, if
Right.
we're fair at the heart of any judgment, anything that we could decide, if we're thinking of it from a human rights point of view, then all these little conversations don't matter. Like, we don't need to have these conversations like this because we're doing things for the human, you know, above all. Like,
I agree with that.
Okay, so with that in mind, if we're taking care of people, we have, you know, them not being in situations where, you know, because a lot of times, you know, women are forced to make the decision for abortions. You know, not that, you know, if you have money, because most women, if they got the money, they have the kid. I mean, most women are naturally nurturers and they want to have the children. So if they can afford it, if they're not debating on whether or not they're going to give this child a good life or not, they're probably not going to even think about having an abortion. So, you know, that goes back to how people are treated once they're actually here. And then, not to say, when we're talking about black men and women in the situation where, you know, they're, you know, impoverished. I mean, like, for the most part, like, I mean, the average person is making $40,000 a year, and that's with the way, you know, inflation has hit. That's, bro, they totally, like even if you making $70,000-$80,000 is almost like being impoverished now.
I want to play a little bit more of the video and wrap up this segment. But let me play some more.
Is that making Roe the law of the land? The Women's Health Protection Act is the legislation that has been promulgated in Congress. It's gotten through the House, but it's not been able to make its way through the United States Senate. It would codify Roe. And I should just say that for those who really care about not just reproductive rights, but reproductive justice, Roe doesn't actually go far enough, but this would be incredibly important, the passage of the Women's Health Protection Act. It is sound legislation. It is important that that legislation is enacted. Absolutely. But to your first question, which is whether there might be a justice that could potentially change his or her mind, there is the potential for that to happen. After first drafts of opinions, there are times in which there are justices that are moved to the other side of the boat. Will that happen with these particular justices? You know, Amy, I think it's important that we add to the conversation here that Justice Alito authored another important decision that was extraordinary, and it was the Hobby Lobby case. And in that case, Justice Alito also did a similar dance, which is to say that it's only about this particular decision. We can't look at it beyond. And what that was striking down part of the Affordable Care Act, essentially saying that organizations, for-profit companies could have religious identities, and that those religious identities would allow them to reject part of federal law, which is to make available through their insurance programs contraception. There were a series of companies that said that we find ourselves to be religious, which was something that the Supreme Court had never upheld before. And that secondly, we conflate contraception with abortion, and therefore sought that the Supreme Court would essentially agree to the same. And the Supreme Court did in an opinion that was written by Justice Alito. And Justice Alito said, well, this only applies to companies that have these kinds of religious views. It doesn't expand beyond this. So a company can't say we have religious views and we oppose, let's say, blood transfusion, and therefore deny people who work for us from getting blood transfusions. So a justice could change their mind, and it is possible that the Women's Health Protection Act could be enacted, but neither of those things are happening today.
I'd like to go back to Kitty Colbert.
They like to go back to Kitty Colbert. The fuck out of here. What do y'all think about it? I'm gonna wrap this segment.
Hey, go women, get your rights. Fight for what you want. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look, I don't have a dog in the fight. I do feel like a lot of this stuff is a reason to just kind of take our minds off of other things that they're doing in the background. And I think there's other things that we could be doing other than fighting about this, because I mean, this is something that's been established, and people who want to have an abortion will, one way or the other. So they need to just stop
having sex.
No, dude, they need to stop trying to this is bad. This is something that's been in law for 50 years already. Why all of a sudden this is something again? You know what I'm saying? It's going to continue to be like this process over and over and over again.
Because they're trying to take us to the past.
Nobody's paying attention right now. We can go on and slip this shit through. I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, take it how you take it, but I just think that there's other things that we should be concerned about than.
Okay, with that, let's change topics. Did y'all see Dave Chappelle incident? That shit is viral as fuck. Tell me y'all seen it.
Yeah, I synced it. I synced it.
that dude, you know what they say? Fuck around.
He got his ass whooped.
He fucked around and found out.
Yeah, and you know what? That's exactly what needs to happen to his ass, because I mean, regardless of you trying to, he act like he's some kind of badass. He's just gonna go up there and he's just gonna whoop, Chappelle, and found out that shit. Look, comedians alike, other great comedians start to whoop it on his ass too.
Yeah, so, and everybody ain't Chris Rock. I think that I think for some reason I just had to mention, maybe the Will Smith slap had something to do with this, because I was reading the comments.
Bold.
Emboldened and shit. Fuck around and find out. You know what I'm saying? That dude's arm was all twisted and messed up. Dave Chappelle helped them stomp him out.
Yeah.
Remember, I said right after that happened, how long was it going to be till someone got up on stage and tried to be the next Will Smith? Comedians were afraid of that. That's something that came out of that. That's a bad thing. And now it's okay to smack people over words because the left gave that a whole fucking pass.
Well, but you see, like many said, because I mean, we still to this day, we'll never know if it was 100% real, if this was something that was maybe discussed before or whatever, whatever way you see it, people can try to take that Hollywood crap and think that they can inject it into their lives some way or somehow. But when you see it don't turn out your way, I think they'll quickly change their mind about all that.
Yeah, man.
That's hot shit right there, man.
So who knows?
We want you to be an activist, and don't take our word for it. Look that shit up. Pulley.